There is an hour when the world still sleeps, but the angels awaken. The air is purer, lighter, as if each molecule bore the trace of an invisible mercy. Silence is no longer the absence of noise. It becomes a language that only awakened hearts understand. The sky, in its still uncertain blue depth, seems to be listening. It is in this hour between night and dawn, when all seems suspended, that sincere souls rise to meet their Lord. Salat Al Fajr is not just a prayer, it is a heavenly summons. A call the world does not hear but one your heart recognizes, if it is still alive. When you rise while everyone else is asleep, it is not discipline, it is love. It is as if Allah has chosen you from among millions to offer you a moment alone with Him, before the tumult of the day drowns out the voices of heaven. The Prophet said, "Whoever performs the Fajr prayer is under the protection of Allah." Muslim, under His protection. These words should make your soul tremble more than the promise of any wealth. For what is Allah's protection but a blanket of light that accompanies you through every trial of the day? It is not only your body that prostrates, but your heart that chains itself to His mercy. Fajr is not a ritual, it is a suit of armor. An act of allegiance. A silent resistance to the heaviness of the world. When you push back laziness, when you fight against the voice of comfort that calls you to stay in bed, you become a soldier of your soul. You confront your nafs, you cut the invisible chains that prevent you from moving towards your Creator. And in this fight each victory is a birth. Ibn Qayyim said, "He who tastes the sweetness of Fajr forgets the taste of sleep." And he spoke the truth. For anyone who has ever tasted this blessed silence knows that nothing can equal it. It is a moment when the world is asleep, but your heart is alive. When the wind still carries the freshness of the night, and the earth seems to invite you to purify yourself with it. When you place your forehead on the ground, you enter into an intimacy that no human gaze can understand. At that moment there is no more audience, no more status, no more appearance. There is only you and Allah. Each prostration erases a little of your pride, each subna rabiul elating a space within yourself for the light. And the more you repeat, the more your soul frees itself from this world. And you, what do you do when dawn calls you? Do you hear that voice that is not shouted but felt in the heart? The one that says to you, "Rise, for your Lord is waiting for you." How many times have you ignored it, preferring the warmth of a dream to the light of a reminder? And yet, every morning, Allah still calls you. He offers you a choice. The choice to meet Him or to return to sleep on your carelessness. Fajr is a mirror. It shows you your spiritual state. If you get up without difficulty, it means your heart is still alive. If you struggle, it means your soul is fighting. And if you sleep without remorse, then it is time to ask Allah to wake you up from within. Ibn al-Qayyim also said, "The sleep of the heart is worse than that of the body." Fajr is the moment when your heart proves it is not dead. That the faith within you still breathes, for to rise before the sun is to declare, "My Lord deserves more than my comfort." It is refusing to start one's day with the world before having started it with Allah. Observe the dawn. Every morning it begins its ascent again no matter what night it has passed through. The sky changes color, slowly like a promise. This is how your soul is renewed each Fajr. Even if the day before you fell, even if your heart was heavy, Allah offers you a new dawn to be reborn. There is a secret in Fajr that only sincere hearts understand. Allah does not look at the time you sleep, but at the sincerity with which you rise for Him. The world may forget you, but the heavens do not forget you. For the angels write your name among those who answered the call, those who chose the light before the day. And perhaps that morning, in the silence of the world, Allah has already granted you a blessing whose name you still do not know. Allah says in the Holy Quran, "Indeed, in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest." Surah 13:28. This verse is a key. It opens the door to true calm, the kind that no wealth, no distraction, no earthly power can offer. For the tranquility of which Allah speaks is not a fleeting rest. It is not a fragile emotion that events can disturb. It is a light that settles in the center of the heart, a state of balance between heaven and earth. Every verse recited at Fajr is a vibration. The words of the Quran are not made of mere letters, they are made of light. When you pronounce them, your soul remembers its origin. For the Quran was revealed from one light to another, sent down from heaven to rekindle what was dormant in your heart. That is why, when you recite it, you feel a peace you cannot explain. It is not your mind that understands, it is your soul that recognizes. Faith begins with listening. Not with the ears but with the heart. When you say Allahu Akbar at Fajr, you do not inform Allah of His greatness. You remind your own heart of it. You declare that nothing is greater than Him. Not your anxieties, not your fatigue, not your desires, not your wounds. You place everything before His majesty. And in that deposit you find peace. Allah also says, whoever puts his trust in Allah, He is sufficient for him. Surah 65:3, these words are enough to dissolve the chains of fear. Because they remind you that you are never alone in this world. That every breath of your morning is seen, heard, and counted by the one who forgets nothing. This trust, tawakkul, is not passivity. It is a hidden force. It is believing that even in the darkness, Allah is working for you. That even when you do not understand the path, the guide, He is never wrong. Ibn Qayyim wrote, the heart tastes the sweetness of faith only when it relies entirely on Allah, and not on the causes of this world. This world is nothing but a succession of causes, plans, and calculations. But faith unfolds in the space of letting go. As long as your heart clings to what it controls, it will not know peace. Far teaches you precisely that, to surrender. To agree to rise without guarantee just because your Lord has commanded it. You obey before you understand, and that is how understanding comes to you. Modern hearts seek peace in 1,000 directions. Music, success, networks, human relationships. But the heart does not feed on earthly echoes. It was shaped by the hand of Allah, so it can only be filled by His word. Ibn al-Qayyim also said, Dhikr is to the soul what water is to fish. What would a fish be without water? So is your heart without evocation. It suffocates in the noise of the world. When you open the Quran at far, don't just read with your eyes, read with your heart. Imagine that each verse is a love letter written by your Lord for you alone. The Quran speaks to you in the present tense. It doesn't tell you stories from the past, it reveals your own state. When Allah speaks of those who forget, it is you. When He speaks of those who are patient, it is you again. Every word seeks you. And if you still feel an emptiness despite all that you possess, it is perhaps because you have forgotten this sacred appointment with your Creator. Emptiness, in truth, is not a lack of things but a lack of presence. The empty heart is not one that has nothing but one that has everything except Allah. Al-Ghazali said, the remembrance of Allah is not on the tongue of one who does not have Him in his heart. Far is that moment when words rise from the heart before leaving the mouth. It is not a mechanical recitation, it is a communion. Syllables become prayers, breaths become praise. You no longer speak, you are spoken. When you hear the call of the muezzin say, As-salatu khairun minan nawm, prayer is better than sleep, meditate on these words. They don't just tell you to get up. They remind you of a cosmic truth. Nothing is better for man than to return to the one who formed him. Prayer is better than sleep, for sleep extinguishes consciousness, while prayer awakens it. This is why far is blessed. It unites two lights, the light of the dawning day and the light of the surrendering heart. When these two lights meet, the darkness of doubt disappears. You no longer need to understand what the day will bring you. You already know that whatever comes will be by His permission. Allah says in another verse, and call upon your Lord within yourself, with humility and fear, without raising your voice, morning and evening, and do not be among the heedless. Surah 7:205, this is true evocation. A whisper from the heart to the heart of the world. A silent conversation between the soul and its origin. Far is not just a morning prayer. It is a school where you learn to live under the gaze of Allah before the gaze of men falls upon you. Each verse is an outstretched hand. Each word of the Quran is a breath that seeks to rekindle the flame of your heart. If you feel its warmth, it is because Allah has called you to return to Him. And if your heart beats faster when you hear His word, it is because He is already answering you. The Prophet's companions rose before dawn like warriors of faith. They knew that true courage is not measured on the battlefield, but in the solitude of the heart before Allah. When night fell upon Medina and the alleys fell asleep, a silent light rose in the homes of the believers. These men, whose words made kings tremble, were first servants prostrate in the darkness. Their secret? For their glory? Intimacy with their Lord. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the man with the iron gaze and the burning heart, spent entire nights weeping before Allah. He who made empires tremble, trembled alone in his prayer. It is said that he recited the verses of the Surah Yasin until his tears made his voice tremble. He said, if I sleep, I neglect my soul. And if I wake, I nourish it. Thus, his authority over men came from his submission to God. Ibn Masud, among those closest to the Quran, recited the divine words in a breath that mingled love and fear. It was said that his face lit up like a lamp in the night when he recited. His tears flowed until they wet his beard, and each verse seemed to pass through his heart before leaving his mouth. For him, far was not a duty but an encounter, a chance given each morning to begin loving Allah again. And then there was Bilal radiyallahu anhu, the one whose call to far pierced the heavens. His voice echoed among the mountains, carrying the Allahu Akbar in the hearts of Medina. The Prophet had said to him, "O Bilal, announce the rest of the heart. For yes, far is not an interruption of sleep, but the true rest of the soul." Each time he pronounced Hayya ala Salah, the angels joined him, and heaven opened to welcome those who answered the call. Al-Ghazali, centuries later, reflected on these pre-dawn moments and wrote, "The hours before sunrise belong to those whom the world has failed to seduce. For he who loves Allah more than his comfort is entrusted with a secret that others do not know. It is not sleep that he gives up, but a part of this world to taste the other. These minutes are an invisible transaction. You offer your fatigue and Allah offers you his peace." One day one of the Salaf was asked, "Why do you get up so early?" He replied simply, "Because Allah descends to the lowest heaven and says, 'Who calls me so that I answer him? Who asks my forgiveness so that I forgive him?' And how can you sleep when your Creator calls you by your name?" Their hearts could not resist this call, for they knew that these moments carried the key to the entire day. Far was their secret, their strength, their source of courage. It was not an obligation fulfilled out of fear, but a vow of renewed love. When they stood up, their faces shone with a light the world could not comprehend. They knew that one who begins his day with Allah cannot be defeated, even if everything around him seems to be collapsing. And you, how many times have you felt that peace after far? That moment when the world still seems suspended, when your soul finally breathes freely? That feeling that everything becomes clear, that your heart is cleansed of the weight of yesterday? Perhaps you have already felt that quiet strength, that silent certainty that, as long as Allah sees you in prayer, nothing can truly reach you. For far is the school of strong hearts. The universe is still pure, the world still untouched by the tumult of the day. In this hour, sincere souls rise like stars before disappearing into the light. He who tastes this hour will never exchange it for sleep. He knows that there is a door between earth and heaven, open for those who rise with faith. Thus, throughout the centuries the pious have passed on this silent secret. Begin your day in the light of Allah, and you will never walk in darkness. Their stories are not just history, they are living invitations to join this lineage of awakened souls. Those who made far the center of their lives built worlds that time could not destroy. And every morning when dawn breaks, Allah offers you too this same opportunity, to join the prayer of eternal hearts. There is one question you need to ask yourself. If Allah called you now, what would he find in your heart? Light or shadows? Dhikr or distractions? Every morning, Allah offers you a new chance to erase the night of your negligence. But man forgets, distracted by the noise of this world. Have you ever felt your heart heavy after a morning without far? It is a sign that your soul is hungry. Far is invisible food. Without it, the day is empty even if your schedule is full. Ibn Taymiyyah said, "There is nothing sweeter for the heart than the remembrance of Allah in the morning. For he who begins his day with Allah, will see Allah walking with him until the night." So ask yourself, what would you do if your faith depended on a single act today? Would you get up? Because it may be that this far that you neglect is the one that would have changed your destiny. When the morning light caresses your face, it is a sign that Allah has granted you one more day to love him, to purify yourself, to return. Place your forehead on the ground and let your heart speak. Tell him that you are nothing without the peace he grants, nothing without the direction he gives. Far is more than a prayer, it is a rebirth. Each prostration brings you closer to your essence, each breath becomes a praise, each silence a secret dialogue with your Lord. The Prophet said, "Stand up for prayer before the prayer stands up for you." The world belongs to those who get up when others sleep, to those who exchange their comfort for the company of Allah. These walk in the light even when the world is plunged into darkness. And if you want your day to be blessed, begin it where blessing begins, on your knees in the presence of your Lord. Far is not an obligation, it is an offering. A secret between you and Allah. For it is in the silence of dawn that the most sincere souls are heard.